as though it came the advent of cold type, what we call cold type. And it revolutionized newspapering as much as the linotype had years before that. And basically what it was offset printing. And instead of having the hot, dangerous, smelly linotype and the melting lead and all that kind of stuff, it went to what at that time was pretty fancy little devices that were somewhat electronic. It was almost like a ticker tape situation where someone would input all this stuff and it was all coded and it would come out. And with a little bit of special film and some waxing machines, which I still lament today that we've gotten rid of the waxing machines, and some graph paper, a whole different type of newspapering was started. This was just something I saved a long time ago because you can see, you can almost pull it off and still feel some of the wax on the back, but things were put on these page-sized pieces of graph paper, and everything from photos to columns of type in a sort of a film, a positive read, not a negative read as you would have on the old linotype hot press days, were created. And this existed for a long, long time. We can sort of pass that around and see. What happened on the press then was sort of interesting. They would take a picture, basically take a picture of that graph paper, and then they would turn it into a negative form. It's very similar to what we still use today. Turn it into a negative form. And a newspaper, where I just do things in 2 pages. This is today's front page. This is the black plate on today's front page. Then they would, and you see how you can read this? It reads just like you read instead of being upside down and backwards like the God bless the EI editor was. Then they took a picture of that and turned it into an aluminum plate. And on this aluminum plate, it has an emulsion on the surface that actually, when they bring up the image with some special chemicals, it actually burns a little bit of the image into the aluminum plate. That gets wrapped onto a press unit. It's wrapped onto a press unit, and when the press starts, the ink rolls onto that. It rolls then onto another roller, which then has the negative image, which then rolls onto the paper, which then has the positive image. Does that make any sense at all? So this thing, which is the equivalent of the old chase in the old days, is offset from the printing of the paper, hence the fact that it got its name. And everything from job work and small printing jobs to everything else still use that same sort of process today. As computers advanced, so did the process, so did the ease, I guess, in the process with which we created them. Right now, we, a few years ago, completely eliminated all of the waxers and all of that film and all of those fun things. I think we finally tried to give one to the museum thinking nobody wants them. They were the coolest dang things ever. And we're strictly computer. Everything we do is on computer. The computer sends all of these images to another computer, which then eventually makes them into a negative form and then back to here. What happened with computers, though, as computers got more sophisticated, came the ability to do color. And color it's always been the same process. It was just more difficult because if you took a color image, you have to divide it into 4 pieces. Does anyone know, any of you not in journalism know what that, and printing, know what those 4 colors might be? They are, just to simplify, because they would use a different term for them. They are red, yellow, black, blue, red, blue, black, and yellow. So if back in the 70s you were to run a picture in color, you would send it off to a special company that would separate those and those images in those 4 colors. And then you would make these plates, get them on the press, and if you were lucky, in about, I don't know, how many papers would you waste before you actually got those into registration?
500 at
There would be a lot. To get that color into registration is difficult. The computers do it automatically. They can do that very specific work. So today, every color page that you see goes into those four plates. This happens whether it's National Geographic in the coffee table book that you're reading, or Time magazine, or the News-Record. It is the same process everywhere. It is the dot screen on those photos that changes. And the higher the quality of the paper, the more condensed the dot screen is. So if you looked with a magnifying glass at a National Geographic book, you might not be able to see too carefully that the dot that is on the photo, but it is there because that is how ink attaches to paper. Everything has that dot. It is those combination of dots that create color. So, Deb is going to help me here. The same thing happens with these things. That one is yellow. This is today's paper. Front page. That one that she has is the yellow. And you can see there's not all that much there. There's a few colors on there, but none of them. This one is red. And Tom and Mike, do I have my order right?
It should say right on top.
Yeah, the yellow first, then red.
Yeah.
Then blue. Red usually is called magenta, by the way, and blue is cyan.
Actually, you can go every which way if you want.
And this is the blue.
I've done that. Is it commodity?
The last one that's added then is black. And you can see when all of those come together, this is what the page looks like in negative form. You can kind of see the developing changes through that. Well, let's look at them on the plates then, because the exact same thing will happen. That's yellow. And this is red. This is blue. And then the black, where the whole thing happens. And every single day, that's what we do. The black page is obviously inside, only take one plate. That's all that they need. Every color page that you see goes through this exact same process. So on a Sunday, when we have the different sections, we could be looking at, just for the color alone, 50 different, well, maybe not color, but total run, press run, about 50 different plates. So that's sort of the process we are now. That's the process. There's a whole lot more interesting things, I guess, going on.